I'm gooning over here. Let's go. Do you know what gooning is?
You know what? I actually was just hearing about gooning.
Up next, we're going to take a look at a couple key moments from a truly wild interview that Caleb Hammer, who you probably know him as like the budget guy who does these deep dives with people into their personal finances and screams at them and shames them, and he's very dramatic. I'm a fan. I like his show. I like his takes. He teaches personal responsibility, individualism, financial literacy, all things I'm a big proponent of. But he just did a very different episode, an interview with the governor of Michigan, a Democrat named Gretchen Whitmer. And as somebody who was until very recently a Michigan resident and will be again, I have strong feelings about Gretchen Whitmer, and most of them aren't very positive. So I was interested to watch this, and I went into it with expectations that he would really fiercely grill her and really hold her to account on a lot of the craziest stuff she has said and done or supported. And the framing of the episode, it seemed to suggest that as well. He said, I confronted the governor of Michigan. But I have to be honest, I am a Caleb fan, and I understand that he's not a journalist. The hard-hitting journalism isn't what he does. I was a bit disappointed. I didn't think that he really brought up a lot of the good questions or points or contradictions about Whitmer's career and controversies that he could have. And we're going to get into some of that, as well as some other key moments from this interview. But first, I just have to share something hilarious. This is like my worlds intersecting in a truly bizarre way. Here is Caleb explaining a particularly vulgar bit of brainrot vernacular to the governor of Michigan. Listen to this.
I think it's important to have our fiscal house in order. It impacts everything that we're trying to do. Yeah. So we take that very seriously. It's not sexy to most, but I'm glad that you find it exciting.
Yeah. No, I'm gooning over here. Let's go. Do you know what gooning is?
You know what? I actually was just hearing about gooning.
Really?
Yes.
From who?
Where?
The lieutenant governor?
Whoa.
I don't know. Is that a controversial thing?
Where was it? I don't know. I had something on television.
They're talking about gooning on TV.
Your show. You
that
were talking
sounds
to a
right.
guy.
This is
You were
Goon
talking
Central.
to a guy who was spending his money on spicy media.
I did not have a YouTuber explaining gooning to the governor of Michigan on my 2025 bingo card. And guys, if you don't know what that is, don't Google it at work, okay? Do not Google it on your work computer. This was just lighthearted, but also incredibly cringeworthy to me, because when I think of Gretchen Whitmer, especially as a gay man, but also as somebody who doesn't really like most of what she's done as governor, the last thing I want to think is about her and gooning in the same sentence. So thank you, Caleb Hammer, for subjecting me and the rest of the internet to that wonderful moment. I don't know. I appreciate the intersection of new media and the internet and the political system and traditional journalism, but that was a little bit of an absurd moment that I wanted to highlight just for entertainment value mostly. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all that. Now let's get into some more of the meat of this interview, like this next clip where he asked her and kind of pushed her a little bit on the pandemic, as Gretchen Whitmer's handling of the pandemic and COVID-19 was very heavy-handed during the COVID-19 pandemic and her lockdowns, which she herself broke her own rules multiple times, and they spoke about it here. Listen to this.
Okay,
COVID
fair enough.
It was hard.
Yeah, it was a little, I'll be honest, I was a little annoyed when I came home for Christmas 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like, we had to eat outside, but we were in inside pods outside. It was a little weird. Then I came back here and then I could just do whatever.
Well,
that was a bit weird, I'll be honest.
Well, but remember what the temperature was. Here, you can walk around outside all day, right? At home,
but if I could
in Michigan, in the winter, we're all inside, breathing on each other.
But if I was allowed to be inside, outside, why couldn't I just be inside?
Because you were inside, outside with just your small group of people.
And the servers and bussers.
Listen, Caleb, none of us wants to go back and relive that.
That's
we were
true.
doing the best
Please.
we could with very little or very bad information.
I'll accept it. I just remember being a little annoyed.
So I understand that this is outside of Caleb's usual lane, and he's a YouTuber, not a journalist, but I won't accept it. I won't buy that bullshit and those excuses even for a second. Oh, well, we had bad information. Yeah, maybe at the very beginning, but not throughout the years of this crap that she did to Michigan with these harsh lockdowns that made no sense. For example, allowing stores to be open, but they had to close their gardening aisles. So you would have aisles that were closed because you can't go in that aisle and buy things because COVID will spread in that, but this aisle is open for business. It made no sense. She destroyed livelihoods and businesses. She went going even after many other states, mostly red states, were opened up. And more than that, more than anything, she broke her rules multiple times, her own freaking rules. And he could have easily brought that up. And again, I understand, Caleb, this isn't his lane, but this is why I do get a little frustrated when people do interviews like this, that this is not their lane. That would have been the perfect opportunity to ask her, oh, you're talking about outdoor gatherings, right? Like when you had in place a regulation that you then broke about outdoor gatherings. Reading here from Fox News, multiple Democratic governors defied their own COVID-19 gathering restrictions and travel recommendations to attend President Joe Biden's inauguration. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer tweeted a photo from the ceremony and later said she left with the feeling of great hope and optimism and determination. The inauguration, however, violated Whitmer's most recent gatherings and face mask order, which stated that outdoor gatherings must be limited to 25 or fewer people. Around 2,000 people attended the inauguration, according to a Washington Post estimate. That's right, guys. So not only did she have a whole scandal where she dined indoors with a dozen people in Michigan in violation of her own ordinances, she also had in place an outdoor gathering limit of 25 people on her constituents in Michigan, but flew to be out in the outdoor inauguration with 2,000 people for Joe Biden. So I'm sorry, but this woman has repeatedly implemented terrible policies that she was not willing to abide by herself, betraying the people of Michigan during this extreme time. And then she's going to say, oh, we don't want to relive it. It's all old news. No, actually, we should relive it because you haven't been properly held accountable for it. And I'm not going to give that up. And you can say we had bad information. Well, a whole lot of other governors had the same information you did and made much better choices. So I do wish she had been held to account a little bit more in that part of the interview. And I did watch the whole thing, and that's just a clip, but it really didn't happen elsewhere either, because I and many other Americans are not just going to let bygones be bygones when it comes to people's livelihoods and lives that were lost under such authoritarian and terrible policies. Now, there was another moment where I actually appreciated what Gretchen Whitmer had to say, but I think Caleb missed the opportunity for an important follow-up question. Listen to this.
What do you think is going on with political extremism right now, and how would you solve it?
I think it's really dangerous when we have leaders who want to fan the flames of anger and violence. I think it will continue to see it grow, which is why I take it so seriously, which is why whether I'm the target of it or one of my colleagues on either side of the aisle is, or the President of the United States is, I speak out against it every single time. Good. I don't make excuse for it. I do not accept it no matter where it's coming from. It's not okay. And I think it's be refreshing if everyone with a platform did that.
So in one sense, I appreciate what Gretchen Whitmer said in this clip, that she, as governor of Michigan, condemns political extremism and violence in the abstract. That is important and good, but it's also very easy to do in the abstract. It doesn't ruffle any feathers to say these broad platitudes. How about calling out your own party? Right? The best follow-up question would be that I would have offered is, okay, well, how come you haven't said anything about the Virginia Attorney General candidate, Jay Jones, who fantasized, he was revealed in text messages that were exposed, who fantasized about his Republican opponent's kids being murdered. You haven't made any statement about that. You campaigned with somebody who's running alongside him on the Democratic ticket in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, for governor, who is openly supporting and voted for that guy. So what about that? Why will you say right now that he has no place in government and should be condemned unequivocally? No. Will you or will you not? Because it's very easy to say these things just in general. And I guess I give them some credit for that. But this is where people need to be held to account to actually name or step outside of what's comfortable. Because if you just say it in oh yeah, of course it's all bad. No, say some names, draw some lines, ruffle some feathers, or you don't actually mean it. And that's where that follow-up was just not there for me in this interview. Now, I understand that Caleb was mostly focused on financial stuff, and that was the bulk of it. And I'm sure he did a decent enough job with that. But if you were going to talk about these other topics, I do think that more preparation or scrutiny or willingness to make her uncomfortable, even though she's the governor of Michigan, I think was warranted. I'm still a fan. No hate to Caleb, but I just would have liked to see this interview done significantly differently. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments. Do make sure to subscribe, like, yada, yada, yada.